It's a quiet morning for Bridget in her Oakwood Beach home. A decade ago, the Staten Island neighborhood was alive with families who had lived here for generations. Now, the geese outnumber the people. Almost everyone who had once called this place home has taken a government buyout and moved on.
Yeah, I like it nice and quiet. The only thing is the geese and the worst thing about here is the geese poop all over the place.
Oakwood Beach was once a working class community of 300 households, but Sandy changed everything. The Category 1 superstorm caused 44 deaths, over $19 billion in damages in New York City. Staten Island was one of the hardest hit areas. In Oakwood Beach alone, 3 lives were lost, and the neighborhood was left in ruins.
The whole house was destroyed. The government, the local officials had no answers. People were desperate and they needed a way to financially recover from the storm.
Joseph Tyrone lost 2 properties on Oakwood Beach. While exploring his options, someone at the Small Business Administration told him about a government buyout program for flood prone homes.
There were several people in the community that just paid off their mortgage and didn't realize when they paid off their mortgage that they no longer had flood insurance. So they lost everything. Just the notion, the concept of possibly getting that money back, take that money and then buy someplace else was very appealing.
Oakwood Beach had endured multiple storms before Sandy between 2010 and 2012. For many residents, Sandy became the moment to start over.
The community advocated to the governor at the time to say that they were really interested in a buyout program.
Jane Brogan worked as a chief policy and research officer at the Governor's Office of Storm Recovery during the Staten Island buyout program.
Gozer, working with the New York State Department of State, talked to elected officials, talked to the community, looked at where there was repetitive flooding, and identified 5 communities that would be offered a voluntary buyout. And Oakwood Beach was one of them. It was the largest one.
300 homes in Oakwood Beach were purchased in the buyout, and about half were in the Fox Beach section.
The state offered pre-Sandy value for the buyout program, which for what they sent me at the time wasn't financially worth it to get up and leave to sell the house for what they were offering.
Guy Casliano has lived in Oakwood Beach for 25 years with his family of 5. He is one of the few who chose to stay.
A lot of people took it, but I think a lot of people were more frightened that there's possibly going to be another storm. Some of the older homes were probably all paid for, so it was probably worth it for them to move. And some, it wasn't worth it. For me, it wasn't worth it.
You know, basically they had enough money maybe to pay off their mortgages, but they had nothing left. So you pay off your mortgage, where do you go? You go to an apartment.
A decade later, the bought-out neighborhoods have returned to the wild. Tall marsh grass reclaimed the land, and wildlife has made a comeback. But the 18 active households who opted out of the buyout feel forgotten by the city.
You see all the weeds like you see across the street right over there? They used to maintain all of that. That was the state, but when the city got a hold of it, they just stopped. There's nothing in the budget for it. So we do it. And the Parks Department comes around and they thank us.
Recent reports suggest that more than 80,000 homes in the floodplains of Staten Island, Queens, and nearby New York suburbs could be lost to floods within 15 years. As extreme weather worsens across the country, many experts now view buyouts as an essential part of future climate planning.
Buyout is absolutely a tool that every government and community needs to have in their resiliency and mitigation portfolio, but it is very expensive. You also need to make sure that people are rehoused. States and local governments need the capital to be running the program.
Today, people living in floodplains elevate their houses and retrofit their basements in an attempt to stay ahead of rising waters. Yet, despite these efforts, they remain in high-risk zones, with many feeling overlooked by the city. As flooding becomes increasingly inevitable, neighborhoods on the front line bear a far heavier burden than others in our collective fight against climate change.